working on a project for my kids. I'm going to put that on wood so they can hang that up in their room. They love pirates. They are my little pirates. So this is what I'm going to be working on. I have this board here that clearly I need to cut. So I have my marks made where I'm going to be cutting. There and right there. So I'm not going to be working over here because no matter how I position the image, I'm going to get a knot, and it's going to be really hard to work with. So this is where I'm going to be working. I'm going to use this bad boy to cut this wood. I'm going to make 2 cuts, 1 on each line, and then I'll have this center piece here to work with. So I'm going to set this up to cut, and you'll see me cut some wood and my really, really funny sawhorses. So I got this all set up here, ready to cut. See my lines there. And this is what I use to cut on. I use the center support of a ladder as my horse. It works. Gotta hold it. It's kind of shaky, but it does the job. So no space to set up my phone to film me cutting, so I'm going to cut and then I'll come back. So as you can see, I decided to change the shape on this a little bit, get a little bit more character. Before anyone decides to chime in and say, well, those aren't even, I did that on purpose. It's supposed to be piratey. These marks here are because of the way that I tried to kind of cut an angle on this to make it easier to sand. And again, that's the only tool I have that is really capable of giving me that. So these marks are actually blade hops. Where I had it on the angle, it hit a tough, hard patch, and it actually kicked the blade up. So that's what that is there. There's some more up there too. But whatever, it is what it is. I'll sand it down as good as I can. So what I'm trying to do now is go along the edges and just sand it down. Make sure there's no sharp corners or anything. My 2 kids that I'm making this for are elementary school age, and so they're going to be touching it. So I don't want any sharp corners, big splinters, anything like that that they could possibly get hurt on. So I'm just going around and sanding those down. I'm using this sanding block. I do not have the grit count on it because I threw away the packaging. But it's working really well. It's actually working a lot better than I thought it would. I just picked this up at Home Depot. The sponge on the inside. I believe this was with the DAP products. It had to have been because I was patching holes when I bought this in drywall. So yeah, look for it there. You'll see it. Nice and pretty. So I'm going to get back to sanding down these edges. I've got them pretty smooth right now. It's nothing catching on there. It's nice. So I'm going to get back to it. Alright, so I gave the top a little sand too. I'm all done sanding. Next I'm going to fire up my Versatool. And while that's getting heated up, I'm going to go ahead and get the transfer made. I'm going to try to prop up my phone and actually go through that in the video. So that's next. Okay, so you can see now that I have my image trimmed down and put exactly where I want it. So now all I have to do is go through and trace it out. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start by tracing the bolder lines first. And this isn't going to be exact, it's just a template. I most likely will go in modify things, change things, add heavier shading or lighter shading in certain areas. But this just gives me the basic outline. That way I'm not completely doing it freehand, because then it would look like a weird stick figure thing. I'm not very good at drawing. Now, I've seen in a lot of threads and posts that everybody thinks that, or a lot of people I should say, seem to think that you have to either be able to draw or digitally design your patterns yourself or buy pattern books. But those all seem kind of limited, and I don't want to spend money on something that I might not end up using, like pattern books. So I got to thinking, what are the patterns basically comprised of? Well, they're black outlines. So I'm using coloring book pages for this. I just looked up pirate ship coloring page, and this and a myriad of other things came up. And I think it'll have the same desired effect that those pattern books do. The wood I'm using for this is a cheap wood. Paid $8 for a 6-foot board. I know it's going to be difficult because it's super grainy. But I learned by mistake and by overcoming obstacles, so since I'm still in the stages of learning, I figure instead of spending money on expensive pieces of wood and really having to monitor what I do, I'll buy cheaper boards, cut them, and learn to work with the difficulties that they present. And hopefully that should prepare me a little bit better when I get a little bit better at it and move on to the nicer wood. That's my hope anyway. Let's see how we're doing. Looking pretty good. Yeah. Looks like we're almost there. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, so I've got everything traced. And let's pull it up and see how it looks. Looks pretty good. See that there? Looks pretty good. So my Versa tool is nice and warm, so I'm going to get started. To make it easier on myself, I'm going to start with the English straight lines and then move into the curves later. Again, I'm handicapping myself by using pine, which of course has a lot of grain, and it's not the easiest thing to burn through, because it does take time. It takes time to learn, takes time to trace, takes time to do. You know how long I've been working on it, and that's all I have done. Now, in saying that, I am not a patient person. I like immediate results. but I like the way this style of art looks. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to learn how to do it and practice it. And I love fire. I love what it's capable of, and that's what this is. It's controlled fire. In the old days, this would be a cast iron mold that was put on the end of a stick, and it would be a brand, and you would brand it on the wood. And how did you heat that cast iron brand? With fire. So right now, this cord here, that's controlling my fire. That's the way I like to think of it anyway. The brief time I've been doing this, I really enjoy it. It's been almost like a stress reliever in a way. You'll notice I also don't have the most steady hand. Which makes this project even more interesting, as it's the most intricate one I've tried yet. And yes, it's a big, bold pirate ship, but it's still a lot of lines. A lot of angles, a lot of movement. I'm not applying that much pressure. It really is just the weight of the tool and a little bit of pressure that I'm adding just to keep it from hopping. See, it hops if you add some pressure to it. You can kind of predict where it's going to go and then move it back. So I'm not trying to add too much. Okay, so you can see I'm completely done. I really like the way this turned out. Right now, I have the transfer tip heating up, and I'm going to go around the edges here and just darken those up. But I really like the way it turned out. So I'll capture a little bit of the edges when that's done. I think my kids are really going to like this. I hope they do, at least. So you can see now that I'm just roughly going around and darkening up the edges. Just give it a little bit more. Something extra. It's taken a little bit because my edges aren't perfect. Right now I have this on the highest setting. Earlier when I was working, I had it on medium high. Because I wanted to have a little bit more control, maybe a little bit more forgiveness if I went over a line. But now I have it on the highest setting. So I'm just going to keep trying to darken up the edges here. So there it is, all done. I got the edges darkened up the way I wanted them. I really like the way this came out. So thanks for watching. That's it for now. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Think of any ideas for things you want me to do. Go ahead and drop them down there in the comments. I'll definitely consider it. But that's it for now. Thanks.